Okay, this is the sample video for CPR on an unconscious victim. The victim is not alert, they're not moving, or you don't see any movement at all. So remember to follow the rubric. This is on the top part of the rubric for the CPR portion. We are going to cover an adult, a child, and an infant, and what you would do on an unconscious victim, okay? So, and you can kind of go right down the list if that'll help you. That makes it easier for you. That works just fine. First and foremost, as it says on there, if you can't get a mannequin, if you can't find a mannequin to use, a large stuffed animal will you work fine, that'll be acceptable. You could use a significant other, somebody in your family, although I'd prefer you not to kind of show me chest compressions on a live person. I don't want you to hurt them, okay? So make sure you kind of follow that rubric. It doesn't matter what you do, okay? So I'm going to work on this as my adult, and I will demonstrate a little bit on that just to kind of show you. And this will also be my child, and then my infant. I have an infant, a smaller one, to show you that. So, to begin with, first of all, make sure you do a scene size up. Make sure the scene is safe. When there's victims on the ground, you don't want to be another victim. You don't want more victims, so make sure the scene is safe before you approach. If the scene is not safe, call 911 and stay back. If the scene's safe, you're going to approach and make sure you've got 911 coming. Now, this is important. I can ask a bystander to go call 911 if there's somebody nearby. But if I am by myself and I am with an adult victim, so I have my adult victim here, and if I'm by myself with my adult victim, the first thing I need to do is I need to get help coming. I'm not saving an adult with CPR or an AED or anything unless I've got advanced care coming this way. So the first thing, if I am by myself, I'm going to make sure I go call 911. Then I begin CPR in my process. Now, if I were to check responsiveness, hey buddy, check for breathing, and those kinds of things, I could do that and then go call 911 right away. But the important, get 911 coming before you even touch that adult. It's the most important thing to do. Now, okay, go call 911. They've gone to call 911. I'm going to check for a couple of things. First, for responsiveness. Maybe they're asleep. Maybe they just passed out. Hey buddy, are you all right? Can you hear me? I'm going to do that for about 5 or 10 seconds. I'm also going to look, listen, and feel. Make sure I put my ear to their mouth. I am listening for any gurgling sound. I'm feeling hot breath on my skin. I'm looking to see if the chest erupts. For about 5 to 10 seconds. There is no breathing, no response. Now I can begin chest compressions. So I want to find the middle of the chest. And the best way to do that is between the nipple lines. Remember that, right between the nipple lines. So you may have to open a shirt, you may have to feel. Here's that middle of the chest. Heel of the hand, fingers up, interlace the fingers. I want to be square right over top of the chest, and I want to do 30 chest compressions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. 2 rescue breaths. Make sure I do the head tilt, chin lift. Pinch the nose for the adult. 2 rescue breaths. 1001, 1002. Back to the chest compressions. And I would continue that until EMT came or extra help came, or I could connect him to an AED and then let that kind of do its own thing. Now, if this were a child that was unresponsive, same thing applies. Make sure you check the scene, make sure the scene is safe. Check for responsiveness the same way. Look, listen, and feel for breathing the same way. The only thing with chest compressions is, depending on the size of the child, I may use 1 or 2 hands. If it's a large teenager, I may use 2. But with a smaller child, I may only use 1 hand. So 1 hand chest compression, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I would do 30 also. It's important that we don't crush the child's sternum, and we don't want to do further damage. So kind of that's a judgment call depending on the size of the child. So that's an adult and a child. Now for an infant, it is a little bit different with the CPR. We have an unresponsive infant. Funny thing is, a lot of things are very much the same. I'm going to check the scene, make sure the scene is safe. I'm going to check for responsiveness the exact same way. I'm going to look, listen, and feel for breathing up to 10 seconds the exact same way. But this time, with chest compressions, I'm only going to use 3 fingers. just like kind of Scout's honor. My pointer finger is right at the nipple line. I'm going to lift that finger, have 2 fingers below, just slightly below the nipple line, 2 fingers straight up and down as best you can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. 2 rescue breaths, head tilt, chin lift. This time my mouth covers their nose and mouth because it is an infant, so it is smaller. With the adult, with the child, you can pinch the nose. My mouth over their nose and mouth. 1001, 1002. Rescue breaths are the same. Go back to my chest compressions, and I continue doing the same thing until EMTs arrive or an AED that I can hook up for the infant to check for heart release. Now, as you kind of go through that, make sure that you're kind of including all those steps that are in the rubric. Do you know how to do the head tilt, chin lift? If you can do it for the adult, I assume you can do it for the child and for the infant as well. Making sure you know the differences with the rescue breaths and the differences with the chest compressions. Make sure that somewhere in the sequence you've called 911. So with the adult, I called 911 right away, immediately. Now, if this were a child or an infant, I am not calling 911 right away. I'm going to do CPR for 2 minutes or 5 cycles first. Listen again. If it's a child or an infant, I'm going to do CPR first for 2 minutes or 5 cycles, and that's because a child and an infant is not having a heart attack. Most likely they're in a respiratory arrest or some sort of respiratory problem. CPR will help them. After 2 minutes, if I don't revive them, I need to go get help. I've got to go get help or send somebody to get help. The only person that I go get help with right away is an adult, because they could be having a heart attack and I am not going to save them without advanced care. So with an adult, I go get help right away if I'm by myself. If I'm by myself with a child or an infant, I must do 2 minutes of CPR, about 5 complete cycles of 30 chest compressions, 2 rescue breaths, and then see if I can't revive that child. The last one is kind of knowing the importance of CPR. I look for those kind of going beyond questions when it's on the rubric, and that is things like you understand kind of the sequence, you make sure you've got 911 called, you understand that a child is probably having a respiratory problem, you're going to understand that an adult needs an AED and EMT fast because you're probably not going to save them with CPR. So it's really important that we get advanced care coming quickly. So good luck with that, and if you have any questions about your video on CPR, these are unresponsive victims. Remember, stuffed animals are okay to use as well. Just make sure you kind of know your technique, follow the rubric, and you should be great to go. Thank you. Good luck.